I can handle it. Say that. I can handle it. Let's practice saying that. I can handle it. Come on, let's practice again. Let me hear you. I can handle it. A little issue at work. I can handle it. Come on. Come on. Challenge with a family member. Sister hung up on me on the phone. My husband's driving me up the wall. There's more bills than my money. I'm not feeling good. I'm getting a little cold. I'm driving myself crazy. I can handle it. I can handle it. I can handle it. I can handle it. I want you to get used to those words because those are words that emotionally mature people speak to life's challenges. You see, there seems to be some illusion somewhere that life is a fairy book. I don't know, maybe because we all, read these fairy tales when we were kids and had this unrealistic, belief that there's never going to be a challenge in life. Thank you so much, Sandra. Give it up for Sandra. Give it up for just a... I can handle it. But let me tell you, last year, I spent a lot of time, I think it was like 18 weeks, because it was important, talking about things that successful people do differently. Character, expressions that they embrace, ways of responding to life's challenges. Nothing that would cost any money or require a class or realize they were all just simple changes of our mind. And successful people believe they can handle it, no matter what life dishes out. Successful people do this on a number of ways, with a number of ways. We talked about all of the inner, and so let's talk about what goes on. Successful people believe they can handle it because they generally have built positive, trustworthy relationships with other people in their life. They don't feel alone when a challenge shows up. They realize, a lot of people are going through this. The prayer requests obviously are completely confidential, but a lot of us have the same prayers. They seem to come in waves. One week it may deal with finances. One week it may deal with relationships. But we're all feeling and going through the same thing. And successful people reach out. We talked about reaching out. That's why we have a church. We have a church so that we have other spiritual, healthy, mature people to reach out to say, hey, I'm not feeling it today. Can you help me feel it? And they look at us and say, you can handle it. Remind us, you can handle it. The Bible tells me a lot. The Bible tells me a lot. And it tells me that successful people are honest. They have integrity. They're loyal to their friends, even when the going gets rough. They have self-control. In other words, successful people realize that their emotions are the greatest gift that God has given them, but they don't let them run out of control. They realize that passion and a desire to be more is a great, great, great gift from God when we recognize the steps that it takes. And we talked about the steps. And so there is a foundation for success. And this year, it's my 8th year in ministry. We've completed 7 years together. My God. 7 years. And you didn't divorce me. 7 years. They say if I'm, what? Not gonna. Thank you. And so 7 years, it's a milestone. And so this year is the year of Undiscovered Foundations. We may have forgotten some foundations that we all have to change situations in our life. Emotional intelligence is one way. And Tim, may I have the book? I seem to have left it on the chair there. Thank you. And when I was I'm still in my program, inching along. I think I have like 59 credits toward my doctorate of ministry out of 71. You've been hearing about my school for God knows how long, but 59 credits. And so the pastoral care teacher, the professor, and she has her PhD, and she is the director of pastoral care in Jackson Memorial Hospital, Dr. Cohn, and she's also a lieutenant colonel as an Army chaplain. And I believe she's the first African-American woman who was promoted to lieutenant colonel. And so she has a lot of influence over the spiritual leadership and direction of the whole Army. She made us read this book, Emotional Intelligence 2.0. And my first thought, I'll tell you, I share my inner thoughts with you guys, is why are we reading some psychology book in a seminary? Like literally, why are we reading some psychology book in a seminary? So because our classes are small, there's only 2 or 3, and we go through the program together. I asked her, I said, why are we reading some psychology book in the seminary? And she says, well, on the cover, Frank, it says, here's what the Dalai Lama said about this book. It succinctly explains how to deal with emotions creatively and employ our intelligence in a beneficial way. And she said, if you want God to express spiritually in your life, you have to deal with your emotional stuff first. That our emotional baggage blocks Christ from answering our prayers. Our emotional baggage and our emotional inability to control ourselves sometimes causes us to act and behave in a way that does not express God in our life. And she said that people who recognize their own emotions when they show up then don't act and behave in accordance with their emotions all the time. Their intelligence actually gets in the way. Their spirituality gets in the way. Their ability to forgive when they want to hold resentment, takes over in those situations. And so emotional intelligence is having the capacity to use, identify, understand, and manage our emotions. And when we can do this, we're godly people. And when we can't do this, we live in a way that separates us from God. Now, God is everywhere present. It's impossible to separate ourselves from the creator of all that there is. God is everywhere present. The Spirit is the activity in our life. It's our very breath. But remember, we talk about all the time that if we believe in a lie, then we live as if that's the truth in our life. And so people who don't recognize their own emotions tend to blame other people. And the first, result when we blame someone else is we don't take action for ourselves. We've given away our power. Once I blame someone, if I blame Sandra or Cynthia for something going on in my life, I've now taken away the power to heal that something. But if I look at myself and say, okay, how can I transform this situation in spite of the other person? How can I grow through the situation in spite of what they're doing or not doing? Then I've taken my power back. This is emotional maturity. And I have a hint, this is spiritual maturity. This is what Jesus taught over and over and over again. This is biblical. This way of living allows us to handle all the relationships in our life in positive ways. So we're going to work on this foundation for a season because it's so important to our success. It's important to our success as friends. It's important to our relationships. It's important to our finances. And most importantly, dealing and learning to live through and control and manage our emotions is what gives us physical well-being and emotional well-being. We can use this understanding of our emotions to relate better to other people, to form healthier relationships, to achieve greater success at work, to find a job if we're looking for work. And I'll explain that a little later. And this is all biblical because in the 23rd proverb in the 7th verse, it says something very simple, but one of the most profound lines in the Bible, and we all know it. As a man or a woman thinks in his or her heart, so is he or she. As a person thinks in their heart, so is he. We think in our mind, we call that intelligence. Now, we understand the ancient Hebraic understanding. Thinking of our heart, thinking in our heart, through our heart, that's our emotions. That's our feeling nature. And so to help us develop and grow into the fullest potential in this year, the Bible is filled with scriptures that suggest how to think and how to act, especially the Hebrew Bible, which we call in Christianity the Old Testament. You know, the Hebrew people, it's not an Old Testament, it's their Bible. It's their Bible. It was their Bible 2,000 years ago, and it's their Bible, next Friday night in their services. And so it's their Bible. And so you understand the Christian Old Testament is that mostly the Hebrew Bible with the books rearranged. And so in the simplest terms, we're told to imitate Christ in the way that he thought and conducted himself in life. Let the mind of Christ be made manifest in us. And what do we know about Jesus? Not what, is on TV. Truthfully, that is not who Jesus was. If you've been a member of this church, you know that I talk about historically who he was all the time. We're to let his mind be in ours. And he was emotionally mature. Jesus was emotionally mature. He was a leader. He was an agent of change. He corrected people. He called people to the carpet, and he let them be when they didn't want to listen. Why is this emotional intelligence so important that I believe we need to start a year with it? Because I've read so many articles, and I've read this book, and we discussed it for a whole semester in the doctorate program, and it's not the smartest people, IQ, the smartest who can, parrot back facts. It's not the smartest people that are the most fulfilled people in life. It's not the people with the highest IQ that are the happiest and most content in life. IQ alone isn't even enough to guarantee success anymore. IQ can help us get into college. Here's an example. My IQ can help me do well on an SAT, but it's my emotional intelligence that's going to help me deal with the stress of final exams and papers that have to be due and dealing with all the relationships that I have to put up with in a dorm room or in a classroom. So I could get 1,600 on the SAT and be a washout in college if I can't relate with other people. If I can't deal with stress, I could be the smartest person in the world and fail every exam. If I can't manage my emotions and priorities, I will not meet deadlines and do my papers on time. I'll be scribbling them up the night before and handing in less than my best product. So emotional intelligence really is more valuable when we want to create success in our life. So who wants to create success in 2013? I mean, who wants to create success? Who came into church and comes every week with some idea that, it's going to help me be more successful? Who? Anybody or just me? All right. Who thinks being spiritual is an important part of success? So I mean, emotional intelligence, it affects our performance at work, our physical health. It affects our mental health. It affects our relationships. Say that, my relationships. My relationships. Okay, and so why is it important? Because it helps us navigate. It helps us navigate through life in the highest way, in the workplace. It helps us motivate other people. And that's part of our calling in this church, to be the face of God in this world. Remember, I'm going to keep reminding all of you that you may be the only Bible someone reads this week. And if they see a frown, and if they see anger, and if they see resentment in you, and if they see emotional immaturity from the smallest little conflict that shows up, they'll be like, wow, they go to that church Unity. That must be a messed up church. Like, that's what people will, they won't say it to you. But that's what they'll think. Wow, they're always talking about their church, and, they can't even get through a lunch, with a smile. My God. They can't even fake a smile, And so it affects our physical health. If we're unable to manage stress levels, it leads to health problems. We have doctors here who could, preach that. I don't need, ask your doctor. Stress is not healthy. Stress is a choice. I know you feel like it's imposed on us, but no matter what's going on in our life, if all hell is breaking loose, it is a choice to dive into the soap opera and write yourself right into the script as a crazy man or lady, okay, and say, I will show up as the crazy, everybody will be like, look at that crazy man. Or there's another choice. Let's see how God's going to handle this one. I'll just keep my mouth shut and let God speak and see what goes on. Stress affects our immune system directly. That, I'm always taking care of my immune system. My doctor teaches me about it and everything. Just this simple act of breathing and not giving into stress increases my T cell count. It's that simple. It's that simple. I mean, I've seen it happen in my life. When I was, I'll tell you, when I was at Unity on the Bay and I was, working as an attorney and just like overworking, and I was in church Monday night with the classes and Tuesday night with 4T and Wednesday night with the chaplaincy. My T cell count was about 700, and that was good. I went to Unity Village, and after 6 months at Unity Village, my T cell count went up to 1,200. Doing nothing different. Same medicine, same food, same routine. The only thing different, I guess, is I was exercising because I was lifting boxes at UPS in a way that I hadn't exercised in probably 20 years. But it was just the prayer. When you're in the seminary, it's like prayer is an important part of your life. And so by understanding our emotions and by taking control over them, we're better able to express a stress-free life. And when we can express a stress-free life, we're better in our relationships. And what more way to be Christ-like than to be a nice person in a relationship, all right? And that doesn't mean be a doormat. That does not mean not speak for yourself and speak up for yourself, but it's to be able to do it with the security of knowing that this is not a defensive war, that you're not creating an enemy just because someone disagrees with you. That's spiritual maturity for two people to be able to see things two different ways and still wake up the next day and say, hey, where are we going for breakfast? And let it go. That's godlike. Forgiveness, that's godlike. Loving beyond, the temporary, that's godlike. Letting go of the past, that's godlike. And so our relationships are better because we can better express how we feel and understand others how they feel. See, a lot of the conflict that I see in my life and I see in other people's life and they share with me is not about the conflict. It's about an inability to communicate one's feelings. And so you know what happens, right? I hold in my feelings, and then the other person holds in their feelings. We may both want the same goal, it may be something in the house or something like that. And then I hold in my feelings. Then all of a sudden this other, entity comes in, and that entity is called passive aggression. And then the emotional choices I make have nothing to do with me, but it's how can I just get under their skin just enough. But then they can't blame me for anything and say I did anything. Come on, tell the truth. You have had that thought with one person in 2012. How can I just be like chalk on the blackboard, nails on the blackboard, But not be able to say, no, I'm fine, everything's fine. Right? What's the matter? Everything's fine. Okay, that's probably the biggest lie ever told in humanity. I'm fine. And so emotional intelligence in this book And what we're going to learn for the next 8 weeks, it allows us to communicate more effectively. And what happens is the relationships we have become stronger, both at work and in personal life. And so I have a handout, and you could all grab it. It's in the bulletin. And it's a handout, and you could read, it's in the bulletin. So what do I have? And it looks like this. And so get the book today, take the online test. There's an online test. And if you're honest, you'll learn areas where we can improve, and it's a confidential test. But think about Jesus, and think about the people I just spoke about, last year. Moses, Joseph, Elisha, Daniel, Peter, Paul. Just think about them. Think about their lives and their example. They did not have conflict, stress-free, easy lives. None of them won the lotto. None of them never had a health challenge. A lot of them were in jail. A lot of them were arrested. A lot of them were unjustly accused. Think how many times you've been accused of something and felt like it's unjust. And so the Bible is Unity's basic textbook. We allow Scripture to come alive when it's understood as a clear and helpful guide for our experiences today. The qualities of prophets in the Bible are the qualities that we have in us to express. From Genesis to Revelation, it is filled with inner spiritual meanings. It is filled with people, places, and things who have gone through the experiences we're going through today. And it is an invitation and the roadmap on how to develop our soul and our relationship with God and God's people. You see, the stories going on that we read and I metaphysically interpret time and time again. There are stories, and this year, pay close attention. Pay close attention. A lot of times they deal with people's emotions. And so I'm going to close, but I want to evaluate. I want to take a little evaluation. And so I'm going to say some things, and I want you to just quietly give yourself a 5 if you're totally emotionally mature in this area, and give yourself a 1 if you think you need to grow. And you could think, nobody's going to give you the test. Nobody's going to ask. 5 is, I'm perfect, man. I could teach this stuff next week, Rev. You're off Sunday. All right? 1 is I need this book. I need to be in church 8 weeks. I need to come to the conferences on Tuesday nights. And I need to open up my heart to God. Okay, let me give the exam first on here. Here, let's give it to Sandra. You win the book for speaking up. I bless you with the book. Okay, now we'll take my little survey. I am aware of my feelings, moods, and behaviors as they occur. I am able to recognize and identify my feelings and moods, 1 to 5. 5 is the best. I am able to identify the reasons for my feelings and moods when they show up. I am able to take my feelings and moods and my behaviors to God before I act. I am able to use obstacles as opportunities to succeed in my life. When I'm asked to participate, I am a team player. I am always looking on the bright side of things. I am able to recognize the emotions of others, and I am able to negotiate situations and control myself all the time. All right, it's okay. I like honesty. We come to church to be honest. We come to church to heal. You want to know the first way of healing? Saying, I can't do this. Okay? I can sense emotions in other people, and it's not always all about me. I am confident. I forgive and I forget. I am able, and I always treat other people just the way I want to be treated. I am able to accept other people's perspectives with situations. I listen attentively when other people talk and don't interrupt them. I can handle stress without falling apart. I adapt to change easily. So if you got all fives and you're all great, just leave your offering for the next 12 weeks, and I'll see you on Easter. You're off on Sunday. If you have no improvement in any of those areas, you could just, Hollywood Beach is the perfect church for you. But if you believe you can express God a little better in some of the areas I just shared, you can get this book. It's in our bookstore today. And in our bookstore today, it's a $25 book, I'll tell you. But Kathy talked to me, and she said she's just going to sell them for $20 today to anybody who wants it. So it's more important that people get the book. It's available on Kindle, if you have a Kindle. It's available on Audible, if you just want to listen to it on your phone. But get the book. Participate with us, because after we get through this month, we're going to have study groups next month. Come to our resolutions conference every Tuesday. This Tuesday, we're doing our White Stone service. Next Tuesday, we're doing a healing service. A lot of people are always asking for healing services, so what I want to do is have the healing service before we need the healing, so we have a little healing on credit. You know what I'm saying? And so if you think you may need a healing anytime in 2013, come to the healing service a week from Tuesday, and you'll have some healing in the bank. You know what I'm saying? Bring people that you hang out with who drive you crazy. They are the perfect people to be sitting in these empty seats for the next 8 weeks. Because then I'll say all this stuff to them that you would be thinking today, oh my God, if so-and-so were here, they need to hear this. But I'll tell you something. If tomorrow you go and tell so-and-so what they need to hear, they're just going to be more defensive. Let me be the bad guy. Remember, I am not your friend. I am your trainer. We're supposed to have this love-hate relationship. And so Jesus worked it out step by step. He had a lot of relationships with a lot of people. By seeing ourselves as this Christ, let us recognize the power of God in our life. This was only an introduction. Next week, I'll talk about chapter 2 in the book, and we'll just go on from there. Let's just take a moment and open up our heart to God before we give our offering. Let's just breathe God into the message we heard today. Let's just be willing. I am willing. I am willing